Hello, my beautiful rock stars. It's your girl Rocqi, your revolutionary hippie from LifeIsRocqi. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Oh my gosh, it feels amazing to be back. So before I go into today's topic, just give you a little bit of breakdown of where I've been. So I took the past year, 2022, to upload shorts daily. And because of that, that took me away from my capacity of being able to do long form. But now that I'm almost at 800 subscribers, please subscribe, help me get monetized. I figured it's time to return to long form content. Please check out my playlist, Becoming a Feminine Woman series, as well as Rocqi's Reactions. That's where I have the most of my long form content currently. But, I will be adding to it in this new year, 2023. However, I am pregnant. Woo! I'm 6 months today. So I am due in April. So I'm definitely going to be taking a break from doing weekly long form. But it's my goal to return. Long form was always my go-to just because I reflect, I teach, and it's hard for me to sum up. I'm also a writer, so it's just hard for me to sum up in a minute or less. I've been able to make do for the past year, but I'm ready to return to long form. So with that being said, I'm excited to return to you with my long form and with this episode. So let me take a drink of water because being pregnant tires you out easily. Woo! All right. So this episode is another one in my Becoming a Feminine Woman series. Now I will talk more about the fact that I don't really mean becoming a feminine woman, but that's another episode. Today, I just want to talk about how I got to be a homemaker because it was a journey. This was not the original plan, people. So I just wanted to share my journey with all of you in case some of other women are like, how I get here. And I look like I'm going here. What do I do? All that good stuff. Let me know your journeys and your experiences in the comments below. All right. So first, updates. Besides the fact that I'm pregnant, I'm also married now. We actually got pregnant on our honeymoon. So check out the Smartt Wedding Journey, that's Smartt with 2 T's, playlist on my YouTube channel. To check out more about the wedding. But anyways, all right, let's get into today's topic of my journey to become a homemaker. All right, so I gotta give you backstory first, like parental backstory, because I think that's relevant as far as our viewpoint of homemakers, which is another video in and of itself. Content for days. All right, so my mother is very feminine dominant energy. She's very much a nurturer, a caregiver. That is her to a T, okay? Now, we lived first in a metropolitan diverse area, and then we moved about 45 minutes away to a country rural place. So both when we lived in the metropolitan diverse area and in the country rural place, my mom was a dental assistant to, I forgot what the title was at this point. The guy was a surgeon in the dentistry field. I don't know if it was orthodontics or orthodontistry particularly, but like he was a dental surgeon and she was his assistant. But when we moved, like they worked out of Virginia. I'm from Maryland originally. But when we moved, she had to like travel 45 minutes to get to him, and then they would have to carpool to Virginia. So it took her away from the house for long periods of times. Whereas when we lived closer to Virginia, that wasn't much of an issue. So once we moved, she would be gone like 5 a.m. and she wouldn't get back till 5 p.m, right? So once I got to high school, she started an in-home daycare. So that way she could be home with me and, she didn't have to do all that driving. Shit. um, and you know, again, she's a natural caregiver, so it was definitely something within her forte. Now my dad's very masculine dominant energy. He works first with IBM and then with Lockheed Martin. Now the dynamics of my house, when my mom was carpooling to Virginia, it was whoever got home first cooked dinner. However, my dad was usually the one home with me the most because my mom was always, you know, driving those long distances. So when she started working from home, that's when, of course, she was cooking the meals because she was home, right? However, my dad, and I didn't see it then, but he had a very gendered idea of roles within a relationship, meaning he never cleaned, like ever. And he also was like slacking on yard work. So my mom, like, you know, you need to mow the grass is getting long, stuff like that. And he just wouldn't do it. So my mom would get up and do it. I, ladies, am not doing that shit. The grass will just be grown and we will have a forest because I'm not mowing the lawn. Is what it is. And I'm okay with a forest, so I actually don't mind it. But yeah, like he just said that because he worked, which my mom was working too, both when she was in the dentistry field as well as when she was doing the daycare, because he paid more of the bills, because he made more money, he didn't have to do anything else. And I'm like, bruh, that's no. So he would like literally be sitting on the couch when he's home, just not watching TV, not doing anything. And it's like, bruh. Like even when my mom would go like take trips to see her family and stuff, I would take it upon myself to clean the kitchen because when I come home, I want to come home to a clean space. And I knew my mom, she's a neat freak. So that would be very, you know, releasing and coming into clean energy and stuff like that. Whereas my dad, like he'd be the one making the mess, like clean up after yourself, man. So, you know, I have issues with cleaning compatibilities that may come up in the episodes. Stay tuned because my husband and I are cleaning incompatible. We're working on it, but it's the thing. He's not as bad as my dad, but Jesus. Anyways, so because of the roles that were exemplified by my parents, also my parents were just wildly incompatible. Like they're divorced now, and that's a good thing. Like they got together young, had a baby, got married. Like and the baby was my sister. They didn't need to be together, but they were together, kind of thing. So that being said, my dad didn't value my mom. He didn't value the things that she did offer. My mom's not really an intellectual, so like he would basically tell her to shut up. She didn't know what she was talking about, like view her as dumb and stuff like that. So, and he didn't value how she made a house a home, the fact that she was very nurturing and trying to take care of everybody and stuff like that. Like he didn't value any of that. So because of that, also I was very much a daddy's girl. I was very aligned with him in my youth. So I also rejected my mom as well. I saw some of the positives, like the fact that she showed up to every single event that I would do, whether that was step and dance or track or poetry, like she was always there. My dad, probably more at my writing events because that has more prestige than sports when I wasn't doing anything, I wasn't going anywhere in sports, I was just doing them. So yeah, she was always there. She made me breakfast before I went to school. She was there when I got home. So yeah, I didn't appreciate how she showed up in my life and what her strengths were. Fast forward several years to when they were getting a divorce and I went to therapy and we assessed that shit. But anyways, so my dad devalued my mom and I devalued her. So the homemaker traits that my mom exemplified, I didn't value because it was like, what's the point of valuing it, of seeing the positives of it when it's not appreciated, right? So that's my backstory. So that's that. My sister, who's 17 years older than me, more like a third parent, is very masculine dominant energy. Whew! Masculine dominant energy. And I actually identify as masculine dominant energy as well, even though I've worked to become more balanced as of late. But she's definitely masculine dominant. So, and then my mom was in this marriage where she felt suffocated, where she felt unappreciated, but because they got together so young and he was doing everything financially, it was hard for her to get out. So both of them were telling me things that would lead me to be the strong, independent woman, the woman who doesn't need a man, you know? So with those messages, I didn't desire to be a homemaker. I was like, yeah, I don't want to not have my own money. I don't want to not be able to go after my dreams and my aspirations. So are we already at 10 minutes? Jesus. We doing good for our first long form. Yay. But those were the messages I received, and I did that shit. Okay. I have my bachelor's of arts from Hampton University. Hey. And in broadcast journalism, which, hello. This is how I got here. I specifically desired radio, but then I went into podcasting. Check out the podcast I have with my husband, the It's So Real podcast. I'll have a link in the description box below for that. But so I have my bachelor's in broadcast journalism with a minor in English and psychology. So I'm also a writer. I just got first prize in a short story contest where I will become a published author. So I'm thrilled that just happened. That was my Christmas gift, right? So stay tuned for that. Hey, check out Ashley Raquel. That's my pen name. But anyways, and then for the psychology aspect, I got my master's in marital and family therapy, and I'm actually a licensed marriage and family therapist. And it is hilarious that my husband and I point out all the fucking time is that while I was in grad school, and I think it was right before I was going into practicum, so before I was actually practicing therapy, I was talking to this guy, and he was like, I want my woman to stay home. She can't have more than a part-time job, and, we're having back-to-back kids. And, he was telling me this as I was in grad school for my master's degree to become a therapist and practice, And I was like, this ain't gonna work, boo, because that ain't for me. And years later, apparently wasn't the right guy. And so moving forward, got my master's, got my license. But what had happened was, I got my master's in 2016. I got licensed in 2019. Those 3 years, while I have grown so much, were hell financially. Because pre-licensed clinicians don't make that much. And I was doing my side hustle at Victoria's Secret, but then my knee gave out, shout out to old age, and I literally physically could not do that job anymore. So then I was entirely dependent on therapy income, which meant I had to work more hours. Now, mind you, my clients, I had started specializing in therapy, or I started practicing therapy specializing in children and parenting. However, the more I had those experiences, I realized that wasn't the capacity that I wanted to help children in. I still, parenting, like parenting classes, stuff like that. Check out Manifest Realities Happiness Coaching is my business. We'll get to it, but I will be launching my intentional parenting program, so stay tuned. But that was my specialty. But I realized therapeutically that I didn't want to be in that capacity. I would rather be in childcare, and then I would rather be teaching versus in the therapeutic context with those particular populations. So that being said, I switched to teenagers and young adults, and I was primarily treating trauma, depression, and anxiety. So, and I was cool with that. I definitely learned a lot, especially I'm seeing Black clients. So learning about post-traumatic slave syndrome and the trauma that was present, the generational trauma that was present because of our ancestors' struggles and oppressions was very eye-opening to me as someone who in 10th grade of high school wrote in the school newspaper, my white ass school, an op-ed about the psychological effects of slavery. Like, bruh, I was on it, okay? But anyways, So yeah, I learned a lot. Definitely grateful, no regrets. Um, but when the pandemic hit, so I got licensed at the end of 2019. So the license money didn't hit until February of 2020 because it took time to change insurance and all like my license status on insurance and all that stuff. It took time. So yeah, the money didn't hit till February 2020. Quarantine hit March of 2020, right? So I would have been good making buku money if I had stayed with my caseload and my license pay. However, due to the pandemic, so many people losing their jobs, so many people just having to readjust their life, I lost half my caseload. And then I realized, now the pandemic was interesting for mental health clinicians because that was the first time we are simultaneously going through trauma together. Usually we, have a handle on our shit before we're treating someone else. And I'm like right there with you. And all of my clients are talking about the same thing that I'm going through. So not only was I still treating trauma, depression, anxiety, now we're all going through a traumatic experience together. And I was already burnt out from just trying to make money and having the caseload that I had to get licensed. So add on that and it was a wrap for me. And I didn't see a way out. I may cry. I'm hormonal and pregnant, but it is what it is. I didn't see a way out. I was like, there's nothing that I can do that's immediate money that's not in the same field. Like it would still be in the same field, and I need a mental health break from this field. And I didn't necessarily want to go into radio because I think my husband and I were working on the podcast at that point. And also working for somebody else isn't my cup of tea. I like entrepreneurship up in here. But I didn't see a way out. And trigger warning, it wasn't until my depression was getting really bad and I had suicidal ideation and it was getting more frequent and more intense that I finally spoke up about it. And I told my husband and I said, this is what I'm experiencing. What do I do? Because again, I didn't have an out and that was only sending me more into a spiral because mind you, I've had suicidal ideation before when my relationships, family, romantic, friendship was all imploding. But my anchor, what kept me here was my purpose to Black America, right? I was like, I'm here for more than myself. And that's what was my anchor. So now with my work with Black America, that's no longer enough. That's no longer my anchor. So I was like, I don't know what to do. And that's when my husband, who we were committed life partners before we were married. So we weren't even engaged officially at that point. But he was like, I got you. Because he just got licensed. He's also a licensed marriage and family therapist. He specializes in couples. Check out his YouTube channel, Smartt Love with 2 T's. Okay. And he was like, I got you. You need to take a break. And also during that time, I was like, I got to get out of this trauma work. And then I was like, okay, a lot of Black people are going to therapy. A lot of people are working on their generational trauma, individual trauma. They're working on it, right? I no longer have the capacity to treat this specific area, but what else could I do? I'm still a helper. I'm still a healer. What else could I do? And then I started thinking and I was like, well, what's next? If we, especially, looking at my children and all the healing work that myself and my husband were doing individually and relationally, I was like, so thinking about my children, I'm like, well, what's next? What if you start from a healing foundation? Then what do you do? And I realized that in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you go up to the next level. So, is that my husband? It might be. He just got a haircut, so we may have to pause this, but we'll see. What was I saying? So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, The most of my therapy clients were in the two lowest levels, when you're focusing on your physiological needs and your safety needs, right? So food, water, shelter, safety, security, right? You're in that survival state, right? And then in the next tier is belonging and love, and it was still like the trauma within belonging and love, whether that's family, romantic, what have you. So I was like, okay, so what the next steps would be healthy relationships within belonging and love, as well as esteem and then self-actualization. And also on my journey of just discovering myself, I realized because my parents were golden as like parents, their relationship was shit, but the intentional parenting was beautiful. So because they gave me such security and met my basic needs, I was able to explore a higher sense of self that many people my age weren't able to get to because they didn't have that baseline level met. And I realized through treating therapy clients that a lot of people didn't have the basics to get to the next level. So I was like, people need to know these things. All the things that I've learned as far as belonging, love, esteem, and self-actualization, these are skills that can be taught for the people who are moving into the next stage, but now they're adults and they have no idea which way to go. So that's when I developed Manifest Reality's Happiness Coaching. Link in the description box below. Sign up today. And I developed my program and I'm fucking thrilled about it. But so I was developing this program and I was in the midst of this breakdown, and I was like, because mind you, building a caseload, whether therapy or coaching, takes time and work, okay? And therapy is easier access because more people are seeking it. Coaching is like a luxury, right? So I was like, I can't just switch to coaching, like, and I need time. And I was also like still developing my program. And my husband was like, just go ahead and do it. Just do it. I got you. So in July of 2021, I launched my Manifest Reality's Happiness Coaching Program. And I had 3 clients that I was seeing for free so I could get testimonials. And that was, July of 2021. So I just finished up with them in December of 2022. So I completed one aspect of my program, which was building esteem. And just so you know, that includes the skill sets of radical acceptance, developing a growth mindset, strengthening self-love, as well as finding happiness. And they've grown so much. Check out my website. I have their testimonials. But yeah. So, and I was like resistant to starting because I wasn't finished. And I ended up like finishing while I'm seeing these people, like a week before, like completing the skills training and stuff, and the assessments and whatnot, and also adding to it based on needs. So I added a health and wellness skill set to my building esteem need, and because that was really necessary too. So it was great advice to start, but he also gave me the freedom to do it. So December 2021, I stopped practicing therapy. So January of 2022, I had these 3 coaching clients and I was no longer actively working. I am a part of Sisters Mentally Mobilized within the California Black Women's Health Project. So I did facilitate sister circles, I believe in February of 2022. So check those out on my Manifest Reality's Happiness Coaching. I will be turning those into courses as well as continuing to work with them. So the sister circles through them would be free, whereas the courses, obviously, gonna have to pay. But those would be, self-paced. I'm still aiming to do them in group-oriented work. If you would like to, form your own sister circle. But yes, and I will be planning a sister circle coming up after my maternity leave, which I'm really excited about. Excuse me. But it's West Coast time, so not everybody can attend, But anyways, so I had and then I also, I love him. I also started writing fiction again. Now, again, I'm a writer. I started writing fiction at 8 years old, poetry at 13. And in high school, when life got busier and I needed to emotionally express more, I turned to poetry. So this was like the first time I was writing fiction in like a decade. But I needed peace of mind to do it. I couldn't do it when I'm stressed to capacity and I don't have time. So now that I'm not actively working, I only had these 3 clients, or I had these sister circles, like I had a lot more time and I had a lot more peace, because now I'm not stressing about financially trying to make it. So he gave me a break from my mental health. It allowed me to lean into my creative side, as well as build some of the other things that I wanted to do. And it was a transition. So like, yeah, I became a homemaker in January of 2022 because I stopped practicing therapy, which was what I was actively working. And it was more, yeah, I was burnt out and I couldn't do my job anymore. And I couldn't turn to something else because I was building to something else. And I just needed a break from my mental health. And my husband provided that for me, which I'm very thankful for, because I couldn't. I needed to rest mentally and emotionally. Jesus. My anxiety was through the roof due to financial stress. I still have anxiety, but it's a lot more common. So yeah, so I became a homemaker, and that transition was weird because that was the first time with me not actively working, like since I started working, 15, like that was a fucking weird transition, and also having to depend on somebody else financially. That was also uncomfortable, but now it's January 2023. I've had a year as a homemaker, and I leaned in hard. I enjoyed the ability to rest. God, I enjoyed the ability to rest. Working for survival is not something I would recommend for humanity. And as robotic technology increases, it's not something we have to do. That is an entirely different episode, but it's not something we have to do. We can find more peace and more rest. We don't always have to be grinding, But yeah, so I was able to rest. I was able to find peace. I was able to write. And again, me writing led to me winning that short story contest and about to become a published author because of it. Like, yo, talk about what I can do in a year if I have some peace of mind. And it was also like, I was also planning our wedding, which I'm like, I don't know how people work and do this shit, because that was stressful too. So yeah, I was also planning our wedding last year, because we got engaged in August 2021. But yeah, so it was very new, and I think what helped is he definitely appreciated me. So obviously, because I'm a homemaker, I started cooking more, breakfast, lunch, and dinner daily. And I'm making another episode about how I meal plan, not meal prep, meal plan. Because there's a difference, and meal planning is necessary. And then cleaning more, obviously, running errands, things like that. And also, because I'm me, I went back to school. I went back to school for child development because I will be staying home for the first 5 years of my children's life. So again, back to the previous guy when I was in grad school. I guess I had no problem being barefoot and pregnant. It just wasn't with you, and it had to be my choice. So to that choice, yeah, I went back to school for child development because, mind you, my mom had the in-home daycare while I was in high school. My sister had an in-home daycare while I was in middle school. I specialized in children and parenting when I was beginning my therapy practice. So I have years of experience with children on their biopsychosocial development. But being their daycare provider is a different aspect to it. So I wanted to make sure that I could provide the developmental instruction to ensure my children's success in school once they do go. And I was like, my life has prepared me to do this. And especially with how Black kids are treated in daycares and stuff, and also just what I know about their psychosocial development, like it's just, I can do a great job because I also would audit daycares with my preschool clients and see what was happening, you know? So I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And it's individualized, specific to them. So yeah, I'm good. I'm a great person. I'm a great mother to be able to stay home with my children because I actually have the knowledge and experience to be able to do it. I trained for this shit, right? So yeah, so I'm 6 months pregnant, about to have a baby. I'm staying home. Let's see what else. And I enjoy cooking for my family. One thing that I love is making our house a home. Like our roommate literally just moved out, and it's such a blessing because now we have 3-4 months by ourselves finally before the baby comes. But it's also like this is our first family home. This is the home we're raising our children in. And I cried, of course, with that realization. But yeah, I can make this house a home, and traditions are a huge part of that for me. So like holiday traditions, as well as like we're gonna do rites of passage with our kids, and I have a whole bunch of plans to teach them life. And that's whether they go to school or we homeschool. Like if they go to like traditional school, we're going to be doing supplemental learning anyway, because I don't trust these school systems to teach them everything. Like I'm trying to prepare my child. And yeah, so I'm loving being a homemaker, and I use the term homemaker specifically because I don't like housewife and how it's only limited to the connection to the husband. I don't like stay-at-home mom because then it's only limited to the children. It's like, no, I am providing the wellness center for my family. I am providing the sanctuary for my family. I am making sure that they are nourished in multiple ways. And that means so much to me because as I'm carrying my daughter who carries the eggs that can create my grandchildren, I am preparing to be the matriarch for the generations that come from me. And more than that, I am planning to be the ancestor that my lineage can draw wisdom from, which means more because matriarch is while I'm alive. Ancestor is when I'm gone and they can still turn back and actually have knowledge and wisdom and experience to learn from. And not many mothers think about those things. They just think about their children. But again, my purpose in life was Black America. And through this transition to become a homemaker, I realized that an additional purpose in my life is my Black family, and how in some ways that means more because I can do more for them than I can for strangers. Like